Hello students, welcome back. In our last video, we built out our world and our player object for Astro. Our background of space looks pretty good, and we have a ship who can orient its thrusters as we move our mouse around the ship. It's a really great starting point. But in this video, we're going to work a little bit more on our game itself and the game's ability to understand what state it is currently in. If we think about how we might play our game, when we launch our game, we might want to display a start menu on the screen. Think of this as the game being in the start state. When the start menu is on the screen, the user shouldn't be able to steer the ship or fire the thrusters or have asteroids come hurling at them. It just wouldn't feel right. So in the start state, all of that should be disabled. Then the user might press enter to begin, and we should transition into a play state where we can actually play the game. We can control the ship and fire our thrusters and dodge asteroids until we eventually die and lose the game, in which we would see like a game over screen appear. In this state, we probably shouldn't be able to fire our thrusters, move our ship, have asteroids come hurling at us again in a lose state. So we are going to manage three different states for our game: a start state, a play state, and a lose state. And depending on those states, we're going to change the functionality of our game and show different screens. We'll show a start screen, we'll show a game over screen. We'll call those screens overlays because they will sit over our main game window. So here will be our game window, and when we want to show a start screen, we'll put it over the game window. So yeah, let's head over to the computer screen and let's dive right into this lesson here on game states. So I have lesson number 2 open, lesson 2's starter file on game states and overlay screens here in vscode.dev. I'm going to minimize that and let's open that file directly in our browser. So I'll come over here and open up lesson 2 and let's see where we're at. Okay, so here's my actual game. I've got the background of space. I can orient my ship's thrusters, but I didn't see any start screen. I don't know. Did you see a start screen? Nope, no start screen. All right, no start screen, no play game over screen. It looks like these overlay screens are not operational. So we got to fix that. We absolutely got to fix that because we got to let our game be aware of the state that it is in, so we can only get access to the correct parts of our game, right? So let's look at our mission checklist. Mission number 1 says, ooh, we have to add the game state values. All right, so if I hit Control F, I'll bring up my search bar and I can search for the mission 1 tag. This puts me right here, okay, end of student edit zone. So it looks like I'm inside the student edit zone. So we are going to create a brand new variable here in the student edit zone that is called game modes. And if you look, it's curly brackets. It's defined using curly brackets, which means this is an object. This is an object that's going to have properties that we can target. So just like our player, right? Here's our player. We specified a property and then a value, comma, property, and a value. We're going to set some properties and their values here for the game mode variable. So I'm going to set a start property, and I'm going to use the convention of all capital letters here. So start is going to have a value of a string that is start. And I'll create another property called play, and its value will be a string called play. And I'll create another property called lose, and its value will be a string called lose. All right, and so now I can access those properties. So watch, we can just do game mode dot, and look, here are my properties: lose, play, and start. I can work through these. So if I'm in the lose state, I just had a game over, it's game over dot lose. What is the value of that? It's going to be a string lose. And so we can do some comparisons. We can check to see like, hey, what is the value of our current game? Is it this string? If it is, then we know it is game over. Mission 1 is done and in the books. All right, well, let's go to mission 2. So mission 2 says we got to set the starting game mode. So we're going to set the game mode to the title screen and make the game begin in the correct state. So if you notice here, we've got another variable called current game mode. Okay, so we created a constant called game mode, right? Once we set this for our program, this is never going to change. So once we set this is never going to change. But we got to keep track of what state the game is in. The game could be in the start state, the play state, or the lose state. So we now need a variable whose values can change. And that is not a constant, right? A constant is something that once you define it, this is not going to change. So like in the middle of the game, we're not going to be like, ooh, we want to add another state. We're going to add like a pause state. No, we're not going to do that. I mean, we could add one, but we're not going to, right? We're not going to do that in the middle of the game. So this is constant. So when you have a variable who is not going to be constant, it's one that you're going to change, like our current game mode, it might be start, it might be play, it might be lose. You would not declare it as a constant. Rather, you're going to declare it with the word let. So we'll say let current game mode equal null. Well, what the heck is null? Null is just an empty data type. It's nothing. Think of it as nothing. So this is not correct. So we got to get rid of it. And we want to set the value of this to a specific state. So we want to say, okay, well, we have 3 states. We got a start state, a lose state, and a play state, right? So it says make the game begin in the correct state. So when we begin, we might want to start in the start state. So I have the start state stored in that game mode variable, and I'm going to access its start property. Hey, now we are currently tracking the start state of our game. So when I refresh my game, we don't see anything yet, and that's okay. It's okay that we don't see anything, but I have a variable that knows what mode we are in. We are in the start mode. So right now, we are ready and primed to tell our game, we are starting. So show me a start screen. So let's go look at mission number 3. Mission number 3 is all about our start screen or start overlay. We need to draw the start screen overlay. Show the title over the game board. All right, well, what are we doing? Inside of this function, draw start overlay, we're saying, give me a marker that is invisible, so you do not see the outline of the shape that I'm about to draw. And then we're putting paint in our paint bucket. What color are we putting in there? Ooh, look at that. It is a nice transparent black. I believe that is the same black that we used for our HUD. So we're going to be able to see behind it. Like the start menu will show up, but we'll still be able to see our player and our world behind them. And then we're drawing a rectangle that has the upper left-hand corner, 0, 0, so it'll be up here. Its width is the entire width of our canvas, and the height is the entire height of our canvas. So it's going to sit over our entire game window and be transparent. So we're going to be able to see behind it. Hence the name overlay. Now, what do we want this overlay to have on it? Well, probably some text, right? We should have like the name of our game. We should have some instructions. So if you look here, it looks like there's some text already being drawn. So we set the text size to 18, and then we're saying deep space probe ready, orient thrusters with the mouse, fire thrusters with space, press enter to launch. So I'm going to call this like flavor text, right? It's text that is created to set the mood for our game. Like we got a deep space probe that's ready. We're going to, and then we got like mission control commands, orient your thrusters, fire your thrusters. And we're positioning that text. Where are we positioning it? Well, it looks like the X position is width over 2 for everything. So that's going to be like smack dab in the middle. This is the width. Dividing it by 2 puts us in the center. And then what are our vertical heights? Height times 0.44, height times 0.55, height times 0.66. So it looks like we're taking the height of the canvas and multiplying it by a decimal. Well, if we multiplied height by 0.00, bloop, that would put us at 0. And then as our decimal gets bigger and bigger and bigger, we go lower and lower and lower and lower until we get to height times 1.0, which puts us all the way at the end of the screen. So it looks like we're going to just be stacking text vertically on top of each other. All right, but I also want like the game's title, so we should probably put the title, and that's what we got to do. Now, there's only one problem right now. What color are these? Is this font going to be? It's going to be whatever color is in our paint bucket. And right now we have our overlay background color. Ew, we don't want that because that is going to not look good for our text. It's going to look exactly the same color as the background. So let's put a new paint in bucket in our paint in our paint bucket. Let's put text color, which we were working with in our last video. It's a nice like white color. All right, and we should probably do a little bit more here. We should probably tell this text how we want it to sit in the space that it's provided. So we're going to use text align, and we're going to tell it in the horizontal direction. Let's center align your text. So when we say go to an X position of width over 2, we're not going to tell it to go to have the left side of the string go to that position. It's going to be the center. So smack dab in the middle. And we'll do center alignment for the vertical direction as well. And then since this is going to be our title, let's make the text super big. So text is going to be text size. Let's make it 60. And now we just got to make our title text. So I'll do text, and I'm going to put the name of our game as a string. So Astro Drift. We got to give our X position. Our X position is going to be smack dab in the middle of our canvas. So width divided by 2. And then I'm going to continue on with this idea. So if you look, it was like a height times 0.66, 0.55, 0.44. So this, I want it to be the highest up. I'm going to have it be like a third of the way-ish down from the top of the screen. So I'll do height times 0.33. All right. So that's going to be our start overlay. I think that's going to look pretty good. So if I refresh the page, do I see my start screen yet? Nope. Nope. I just see these like background of moving stars. I mean, that's kind of cool. Just refreshing the page. I think this is how like movies were made way back in the day, right? One image followed by another image, followed by another image. This is like stop motion. Never mind. I got to get back on track. So we don't see our start screen yet. We wrote this draw function, but I wonder if we're not calling it anywhere. Well, let's see what mission 4 has us doing. Because just because we wrote the instructions doesn't mean the instructions are actually being run yet. And that's probably what is happening here with our start overlay. Oh, but mission 4 says, hey, let's not get away from these overlays yet, because not only do we have a start overlay that we want to display when our game mode is start, but we have a lose overlay that we want to display when our game mode is probably going to be lose. So what are we doing in here? Well, no stroke. Give me that invisible marker so you don't see the outline of the shape I'm going to draw. We're going to put some paint in our paint bucket, that transparent black, and then we're drawing a rectangle that's going to sit over our entire game window, hence the overlay. Now, we are putting a new color in a paint bucket, text color. We're aligning the text center, and then we're setting the text size to 60. I think we just did that, right? Oh, perfect. So we're going to have like mimicked structure between our start screen and our lose screen. That's going to look pretty good. Now, if we look, we are saying text, our probe has been lost, and we're positioning that. And then we're changing our text size. We're lowering it, and we have some flavor text. Contact with the probe has been lost. All right, so now what do we want to do? We want to show restart instructions. Okay, so I think I'm going to keep the text size the same, this small text, and I'm just going to make a new text object with some reset instructions. So I'm going to say press enter to relaunch. And where do I want that string to go? Smack dab in the middle horizontally. So width divided by 2. And then what were the positions we used up here for our flavor text? We had height times 0.055 and height times 0.066. I'm going to mimic that exactly so that these strings appear in the relative same location. That's going to give some consistency between the start and lose screens. So for this text, we'll do height times 0.55. And then I'm going to put another call to our text function. I'll say press R for mission reset to like reset the whole game. And we'll make that in width divided by 2, height times 0.66. All right. So it looks like our overlays, these functions are done now, right? We know what we're going to see if we can ever see it. But right now, we're not seeing it all. So this goes to the fact that we wrote the instructions here. We wrote these functions, but we're never calling these functions, right? You actually have to run the set of instructions. And so mission number 5 says, show the correct overlay for the current game state. So remember, we've got our game state variable, current game state, which could be game mode.start, game mode.lose, game mode.play. And mission 5 puts us inside of the draw scene function. This is one of our own personal functions that we have to draw various aspects of the game. Where is this scene, draw scene function actually getting called, though? I want to make sure we fully understand. If I go up to the top of my code, we get 2 functions right at the top. We get our setup function. This is from our P5 library that we imported in. It gets run once, bloop, as soon as we refresh our game. The draw function is also from the P5 library, and this runs every single frame of the game. And look what we're doing in here. We are drawing our scene. So every single frame of the game, draw scene gets called, which means the background gets drawn, the player gets drawn, and the HUD gets drawn. And now it says, hey, we got to add some more stuff. We want to draw some overlay rules. Well, hey, I got 2 more draw functions. Why don't I just call them here? I'm going to call draw start overlay. Now look at here. If I start typing draw start and I hit tab, I can autocomplete that line, which means I don't have to type out all of that stuff. Now, if you want to call this function, you need a set of parentheses at the end here to actually run the set of instructions that we wrote. So now we are going to run that set of instructions every single frame of our game. And there is our overlay. Hey, that looks pretty good. Astro drift, deep space probe ready. Orient thrusters, mouse, fire thrusters, space. I like that. That looks great. Hey, we got another overlay. Why don't we call our next overlay too? And did you notice it sits over the game window and we can still sort of see the background? Of course, I can still move my player. I don't like that. We're going to have to fix that, but that's okay. Let's call our other one. So let's do draw lose overlay. And I am going to make sure I have the right one picked. I'm going to hit tab to autocomplete it so I don't have to type it all out. And then a set of parentheses to actually run the set of instructions. So now I should have my 2 overlays. And I sort of have my 2 overlays. If you look, this is pretty funny. The start overlay was drawn, and then the lose overlay was drawn right on top of it. So that is not what we want. We don't want like the game window drawn, and then the start overlay drawn, and then the lose overlay drawn. This is bad. This is bad. In fact, let's think about it. When do we really want to draw these overlays? Well, we only want to draw the start overlay if the current game mode is start. So we got to ask a question. And the way we ask a question here is with an if statement. So we are going to use if, and then inside of parentheses, we are going to put a question. And if the answer to that question is yes, then whatever code we put here on this line will execute. So I'm going to say draw start overlay. So I want to ask a question that when it is evaluated as yes, we will draw our start overlay. So what is that question going to be? Well, it's going to be, is the current state of our game mode our start mode? So to check this, I take the variable that we defined in mission number 2, current game mode, and I'm going to check to see what it is equal to. 1 equal sign assigns a value. 2 equal signs is a loose check for equality, and 3 is a strict check. So we're going to do 3 equal signs, and I'm going to check to see if our current game mode is equal to my game mode object, and we're going to access one of its properties with a dot. We have lose, we have play, we have start. We are going to check start. If that is the case, then we are going to draw our start overlay. All right, let's refresh the page. Let's see if we get one. Hey, look at that. There is our start overlay. That's pretty good. Let's go up and change it. I'm going to just go and change this. Let's see. What if the answer to this question was not yes, right? So when I say yes, really what I'm talking about is a value of true. What I have highlighted there is a true statement. So that is known as a Boolean value, something that could be true, yes, or false, no. So let's go make this false. If someone were to ask this question, we're going to make the answer be no. I'm going to do that by just coming up here and changing our current game mode variable. Let's change it to lose. All right, so now you can see the value of current game mode is lose. So if I go back to mission 5, current game mode is equal to game mode.lose. That is not what game mode.start is. So this question is not going to answer yes. Our overlay, our start overlay should not be drawn. And there it goes. It just disappeared. Well, if our game mode is lose, I kind of want to draw the lose overlay, right? I kind of want to draw the lose overlay. So I could ask another question. I could say, hey, if current game mode, I'm going to tab for autocomplete, is equal to, 3 equal signs, game underscore mode dot lose, then what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to call draw lose overlay. Now look, it's right here in this list. I can use my arrow keys to find it and hit tab to autocomplete, parentheses to run it, and then a semicolon. So now the answer to this question is a big old whopping no. So now we ask this question. Well, right now, current game mode is equal to game mode.lose. The answer to this question is yes. This is a true statement. So we are going to run this bit of code. We should see our lose overlay. And there we have it. The probe is lost. Excellent. Now, this works, and this works great, but there's only one problem. These questions, both of these questions get asked every single time. So for example, I'm going to go back up to my game mode, and let's change it from current game mode. Let's change it from lose back to start. All right, so perfect. So now we're back to start, and I'm going to go back down to mission number 5, where we stated our rules. So right now, if we look, we asked this first question. Current game mode is equal to start. So this is true. So the answer to our question is yes. So our draw start overlay function should run, and we get our start overlay. even though we evaluated this and this answer said, yep, our game mode is start, we still got to ask this question. All right, we're still asking this question. And if our game mode is start, there is no way our game mode could also be lose. It's almost like if this evaluates to true, or the answer to this question is yes, then don't even bother asking this like follow-up question, because we already know the answer is going to be no. If you find yourself in a situation where you have a follow-up question, right, where you only want to ask it if this question was no, then instead of using if, you are going to use else if. And what that does is it sort of takes these questions and pairs them up. Imagine if I'm trying to talk to my friend about what they want for dinner, and in my head I could say, okay, I could ask them if they want pizza for dinner, I could ask them if they want sandwiches for dinner, or I could ask them if they want salads for dinner. If I say, wait, would you like pizza? And they say yes, there's no need for me to then ask them if they want salad or sandwiches. So we can use if and else if to sort of chain our questions together. And that looks perfect. So now I'm just going to align that a little bit nicer. And so perfect. Mission number 5 is done. We refresh our game. We're in the start mode. We got our overlays. Now there's just one problem here, right? If you look, we're in our start mode, but I can still move my thrusters around. I don't want to be able to do that. Like I should have to hit enter in order to launch my probe and actually get started here. So let's see what mission 6 is going to bring us. Oh, mission 6 says we have to update the game so movement only happens in our play mode. See, that's a problem right now. We're in start mode. We are in start mode, and I can still update the player by moving my thrusters around. I don't want that. So let's see where mission 6 takes us. It takes us into our draw function. This is one of those P5 default functions. Remember, this runs every single frame of the game. And so in here, hey, look, we're asking a question. It says if, and our question is just, the question is just true, right? Well, here's the thing. True always evaluates the true. So if you ask a question and the question is true, this will always be yes. And so inside of here, if you notice here we have curly brackets, and the reason why is because you can put multiple lines of code. And if you have multiple lines of code inside of your curly brackets, all of those lines will execute if the question is equal to yes. So we will definitely be adding more here. If you only got one thing to run, you can just put it in line, which is what we did in mission number 5. But here's the problem, right? You don't want to put a question that is always yes. So we got to ask the right question. When do we want to update our thrusters directions, right? And be able to move them? Well, we only want to do that if the state of our game is in the play state. So we got to ask that right question. We're going to say, all right, let's look at our current game mode variable, tab to autocomplete. And is it equal, 3 equal signs for strict equality, game mode dot. And we're not checking lose, we're not checking start. We only want to check to see if it's play. And if we are in the play mode, then update the thrusters direction. So if I'm in the start mode, I can't do this, right? This is false. But if you look here, this won't run. But what do we run every frame? Our draw scene function. So I'm going to draw my background. I'm going to draw the player. I'm going to draw the HUD. I'm going to draw my overlays. Those are always going to happen. The only time I can update my thrusters direction is if I'm in the play mode. Let's refresh the game and let's see if I can still move my thrusters around. Well, and you look at that, my thrusters are completely stationary. They are smack dab in the center of the ship. They haven't even been put out yet. So, all right, we got to press enter to launch. I'm going to press enter. And nothing happens. I'm purposely hitting the keys very hard so you can hear it in my mic. Nothing is happening. So we got to go to our next mission, mission number 7. Let's see if that fixes this behavior. Mission number 7 says start the game when enter is pressed. Yes, that's exactly what we want to do. We got to switch from the title or lose screen into our play mode. All right. Where are we right now? We are inside of a function called key pressed. And let's see where this function lives in our code. It lives right next to draw and setup, those built-in P5 functions. Key pressed is also a P5 function that we have imported in. Setup runs once. Anytime we start our game, refresh, it ran, refresh, it ran, refresh, it ran. Draw runs every single frame of our game, 60 frames or 60 times a second for 60 frames per second. or 60, yeah, 60 times a second. And the function key pressed will run anytime the user presses down on a key on the keyboard. So if you press a key and your key goes from unpressed to pressed, this function will run. It doesn't run if you are holding a key. It only runs when you are pressing a key, when you pressed a key. So let's look at what happens. If that happens, we are asking a question. We're saying, hey, key code equals enter. Is the key that you pressed equal to enter? Now, enter is a pretty special key, which is why we can just type it out. Now, if that is the case, we have another question. So it's almost like we have nested questions. So, hey, well, I'm going to ask you a question. If you get it right, only if you get it right, then I'll ask you another question. So, hey, if I say, hey, you pressed a key, was it enter? If you said no, I'm not even going to ask this question. You said, I pressed the P key. Nope, not even gonna entertain it. You don't even get to this question. But if you press the enter key, then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. I'm going to ask you, is the current game mode equal to start? And then these two vertical bars mean or. So is the current game mode equal to start, or is the current game mode equal to lose? And if you answered yes to that, right? So under or, only one of those questions has to be true. So either the current game mode is start or the current game mode is lose, then we will transition out of those states into the play state, right? So if you're at the start menu and you want to start the game, you got to press enter, and you should be able to, if you're in the start mode and you press enter, move into the play state. But you could also say, hey, wait a minute, what if, where's my reset game to defaults? Oh, wait, I want to just show my lose screen. Oh, here we go. I'm going to set this to lose. What if you had the lose screen? Well, you might want to play again. So if you press enter, you should transition from the lose state into the play state. So we got to look for either of those. Either one can be true. So what do we need to do now if we register that? Well, we need to take our game mode variable and change it. So we're going to say, okay, current game mode equals, we're going to set it to game mode dot play. We're going to set it to the play property. All right, but we're going to do one other thing here. We're going to be really careful, because imagine right now this should work. So if I press enter, I should be able to, let me refresh the page. I should be able to press enter and enter play mode, and now my overlay is gone. All right, so that's pretty good. So that works nicely. All right. Now, there's only one thing, though. If we press enter when we're in like the lose state and we do this, we also want to make sure that we reset all of our game values. Because imagine if we have this function, right? Reset game to defaults. All right. So I want to like redraw my stars. I want to reposition my player. My player is eventually going to move. So imagine if I ended the game and the player was all over the way over here and I restarted the game, the player would restart here unless I reset all of my game values. So let's call this reset game to defaults function as well here right before we set the game mode to play. So I'm going to type reset game to defaults. I'll hit tab to autocomplete it. And that's just going to prevent some unforeseen or bad behavior in the future. All right, lastly, mission 8 says we got to set our title screen transition. So return to the title screen with R. Reset the game and switch it back to start mode. Okay, so we're asking a question. It says if false. Okay, just like if true always answered yes and the code would always run, if false always answers no, and this code will never run. And look at, when we reset the game, we're resetting the game to defaults, and then we're putting the current game mode back to start. So it's like you hit the reset button on your video game console and it went back to the start menu. Oh, hey, look at this. We got a forced lose screen. We got a debug. It says if our key is equal to G or our key is equal to capital G, then we ask a follow-up question. If the current game mode is play, we're setting our current game mode to lose. Hey, we have a hotkey to lose the game. We can debug this. Let's check this with G. So right now, if I hit the G key, I should lose the game. Hey, probe lost. All right. I can press enter to restart. And now I can, pretend I'm flying around space. I press G, game over, probe lost, and I see that overlay. Now I want to be able to go back to my title screen by pressing R here. That doesn't work yet, so we need that functionality. But if this works for our debug lose, we can probably do something similar here for reset, which we want to control with the R key. So I'm going to say if, I'm going to ask a question, if the key we have just pressed is equal to lowercase r, or if the key we just pressed is equal to uppercase R, just in case someone's got the caps locks on. What are we doing? We're going to reset the game to its default values and set the current mode back to start. And by setting these modes here, that's how our overlay is known to be drawn. Let's check the functionality of everything that we have so far. Astro Drift, we are in the start mode. The game is not operational until we press enter. When I press enter, that key press gets registered and we switch to the play mode. All right, now I'm in the play mode. I can move my mouse around my player. We can orient our thrusters. I can fly around. If I die, hotkey G, we get the lose overlay because now we are in the lose mode. I can press enter to relaunch. I reset all of my values. I get a new star map. Perfect. And while I'm playing here, if I say, you know what, I want to just go back to the title screen, I can now press R. That key press gets registered and we transition our state back to the title screen. Awesome. Our game modes, our overlays are working out perfectly. And now our game is aware of the state that it is in. So when we are in the start state, we have certain functionality. When we're in the play state, we are only showing the information that we need to show to the screen. We're hiding our other overlays. And when it's game over, it's the lose state, we lose functionality again. This system works really well, and we could expand it if we wanted to. We could create a pause state, or a menu state, or an inventory state. You could imagine how the user might be playing the game and they could hit the P key to trigger a pause state and create an overlay that pauses the screen. But we will not implement it here because these three states work perfect for what we are trying to accomplish and what we're going to build on in our next video. So I'll see you then.